welcome to the one and only original Country Bear Jamboree, featuring a bit of Americana, our musical heritage of the past. Well, enough of this chit-chat, yak-yak, and flim-flam. Now I'll introduce the rest of the gang.
Well, we started last week with Sleeping Beauty Castle, but I don't know how many weeks you thought we were going to go before we talked about the one and only original Country Bear Jamboree. Well, the answer was one.
We let it go 1 week because it felt appropriate to start with something that wasn't what is arguably my best loved, probably your best loved, Disney theme park property attraction, bar none, ever. I grew up
Well,
with...
maybe Figment and then...
They're close.
They're close. They're all family.
Figment the Merchandise Dragon is lovely. But this stays true to itself. And I think that's what... I grew up loving the Country Bear Jamboree. It was my favorite attraction. And I think I inherited that from my father, who loved it. And it was just a family thing. And it was my weird little corner of the world, Big Al in particular. And it just brings back these sort of like memories of like what Walt Disney World is to me. And it was a very early, when I started collecting things and getting really interested in the history of the company, that was one of those like gateways, was Country Bear Jamboree, because there wasn't that much stuff.
No.
And it was one of those things where before I knew Mark Davis's name, I loved Mark Davis. And I think this is why. It is the pinnacle of character design. Like, it just nails it on all the notes. And so it seems fitting for us to spend a few minutes talking about the stuff that is the Country Bear Jamboree.
And fittingly, we are in Celebration, which is land that was purchased by Walt Disney for his Florida project. There's nothing more quintessentially Walt Disney World than the bears, because they are one of the very few original things for the Magic Kingdom that made it special over these 55 years.
That's right.
Yeah. So, quick history of the Country Bears. They're designed originally, Imagineer Mark Davis, for a project in Mineral King, a ski resort, where somehow everyone thought, animatronic bear show repeating over and over is what people at a ski lodge will want to see.
Right, you go down the icy slopes, get yourself a hot toddy, settle in, and enjoy the same performance again and again and again as what I believe to be the only attraction at Mineral King.
Yeah, there weren't plans for others.
Other than, skiing and outdoorsy stuff. But like, if you didn't like the outdoors, but you still wanted to be there, you had an animatronic bear show, and they sang, and they kind of danced, and they told jokes, and good things happened, but probably better in a theme park. So, why don't you take us through some of the... this is one of those...
Some of my tchotchkes?
This is one of those journeys that begins, I think, not with a model, not with concept art. We'll get to that later, don't worry. But this is a merchandise story, because when Country Bear Jamboree opened in 1971, it was a huge deal.
Absolutely.
It was an e-ticket attraction. There were lines out the door. The shows were always full. And there was a ton of merchandise. When you came to the park as a kid, and when I came to the park as a kid, what did you have? You had a Big Al plush, a Big Al t-shirt, maybe a pin, or
and
like
all of
a
our stuff was
keychain.
based around the Vacation Jamboree, because that was the show at the time. That was kind of like the revitalization of them for our generation. Was
right.
I knew Big Al as he was a miner. Like he lived in a cave and he was a miner. That's the Big Al I knew. I was shocking when I found out, he's just kind of a hillbilly.
I remember my first Big Al plush was not any of these.
Miner is not. No, the Miner Big Al is not out today.
It was the Walt Disney World Big Al with the flannel coat and that like vacuum formed plastic miner hat
with the light on the front.
Yeah,
a working light, mind you.
And it wasn't in the attraction, because when we came to visit, it was regular Country Bear Jamboree, and I blissfully ignorant as a kid, just rolled with the fact that Big Al was always wearing a hat that was different than Big Al on stage, and didn't really ask why. I just, happily, held him as my comfort object for, up until last week.
But yeah, for any collector, I think that's where it starts, especially Disney. I think most of us grow up with it, and so it begins usually with a plush or a toy. And they're bears, so what do they lend themselves to? They lend themselves to teddy bears. So there are a lot of teddy bears. You start in the 1970s with the felt eye Big Al, and then you move on to, when we were a kid, the rubber face, and they progress onward and onward into Japan, where Japan made all of them from every show in plush form. Very, very cute.
It was a beautiful explosion of merchandising goodness.
Yeah.
Thank God they were only this big, because if they were full-size bears across the whole show, I would be more eccentric than I already am, I guess. So, but this starts, the cool stuff is the early stuff from the 70s. And then on this shelf here, you see a lot of the Treasure Craft product. Treasure Craft was an American pottery company that made all sorts of sort of souvenir and touristy wear. They had a license with Walt Disney World and Disneyland, actually. And you see, there's like Polynesian Treasure Craft stuff and generic Walt Disney World Treasure Craft stuff. But they did they took the bear band art, the 5 bear rugs, and reproduced it on, you see here, there's a couple mugs, there's
decorative skillet.
the miniature decorative wall-hanging skillet. I think there's a bank.
A napkin holder?
And a napkin holder. It was everything that a 1970s home needed in this like faux wood pottery, which was very indicative of like the Country Bear Jamboree, but also profoundly 1970s. Look at this orange and sort of avocado green and like. There's an ashtray too.
Of course.
There's an ashtray because that used to be one of the quintessential Disney park souvenirs.
Well, this is indicative of the change in souvenirs over the decades, because in the 70s at Disneyland especially, and even still at Walt Disney World, it was still mostly a road trip destination. Air travel was not something everybody was doing yet. Now you very rarely find anyone who road tripped to Disney World, but these were things you could wrap up, put in the car, and you drive back home at the end of the trip.
That's right, yeah. And this was back when you were like bringing things home for people too.
Gifts, yeah.
Like you were coming to Walt Disney World, and everyone on the block knew that you were taking that trip to Walt Disney World, and you owed them something.
Grandma Sarah needed a decorative skillet of the Country Bears, desperately.
Before she opened that restaurant at Tokyo Disneyland,
I thought you were going to catch that reference, but you couldn't.
It started with this skillet. And there were a couple other early things, right? That up here, the Big Al up here, which is based on the maquette, actually. This was a company called Randotti, and they made sort of a chalkware or plasterware figure. They're most famous for making. They did Country Bears, they did Pirates, but they're most famous for doing the tombstones that they sold at Haunted Mansion.
The Memento Mori.
Yes. Which could be customized with 1970s names like Susie and John and Eric.
Personalized souvenirs were a big thing back then.
Right.
It still lives on. Sometimes you'll find, especially on 192 or iDrive, the little keychains with the names, and you look for your name.
Although, it's sort of, names have gotten weird. So, there's like...
That's part of the death of that business.
Yeah,
yes.
you're like, oh my gosh, like there's not... You're spelling that how? No, really. There's an H in it? I'm shocking. So that wasn't Randotti was those are great too, and they're really hard to find. And then the other 70s thing, which is very indicative of 1970s, is homemade ceramics. Yeah. Right? And you have some whiteware over here, which is the unfinished or greenware. It's sort of the soft clay, unfinished, unfired. And then you could in your home ceramic studio, in addition to the Santa Claus and the nativity scene that you've painted for every member of the family, you could paint country bears. And I think there's a teddy bear over here painted, that was painted and fired by someone. Those weren't made in a factory, in so many words. They were greenware that you bought from a ceramics company, like a wholesale ceramics company in your city. And there was a company that had a Disney license, and the Country Bears was the choice. Now, can you imagine? This is an attraction where a few years ago, and this this story sort of precedes itself as it relates to who's putting this content out. But a few years
I've never heard this.
A few years ago, it may have been an endangered species as an attraction here. The Disneyland version closed and was replaced by
Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
a very disappointing Pooh ride, arguably. Like, probably at the bottom of the Pooh ride list. That's a different story for a different day. But it was on the brink of extinction and ready to be replaced by a Toy Story attraction, and then some new life got breathed into it, and new life from a merchandise perspective as well, because now there's Country Bear Musical Jamboree things.
Shirt.
Like this
You're
shirt.
wearing the shirt right now.
I'm repping the new show.
So of course the Bears begin their life at Walt Disney World, but then they knew immediately that this was something, and so before Disney World even opens, they're already building the second Country Bear Jamboree, a 2-theater version at Disneyland in Anaheim, as a way to get people to that back corner of the park, just beyond where Splash Mountain would eventually be someday. And so they build that 2-theater version, but then something happens where over the course of the 70s, maybe the bear popularity comes down a little bit. Certainly does at Walt Disney World, but enough to fill a theater. But at Disneyland, they have a constant problem of trying to get people to the back of the park. Even with the bears back there, after that initial rush, it's a problem. And so they realize, well, maybe there's something we could do with the bears to make this popular again. We don't want to get rid of it, but maybe there's a way to dress this up or change the show. And that's when in the early 80s, they come up with the idea of a Christmas show, the Christmas special, that debuts in 84. And then with the success of that, they go, well, if we could do a Christmas show, we could do anything, right? And then by 1986, they decide on both coasts to do a vacation show, put the Bears on summer vacation.
I mean, the cool thing about that, of course, is those are the first attraction overlays.
Period. Yeah.
And now that's a celebrated tradition, really.
It is a main line of business, especially for Disneyland Resort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the opportunity, and it makes perfect sense, the Bears are performers. Let them perform songs that are relevant to a season, songs that are relevant to a celebration. That's the sort of the same storyline that picks up and becomes the Country Bear Musical Jamboree, the new show, is that the Bears can sing Disney songs. And that's an idea that's been rattling around for, the better part of 20 years, I think. It was originally a Tokyo idea, and then it works its way here as the sort of fix. And, it has worked. It
is the 6th most popular attraction at the Magic Kingdom today. So think about what's in the Magic Kingdom. It's beating some things that no one ever would have thought the Country Bears would.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What that means, though, is there's new merchandise, right? There's
Sure
merchandise with bears in different costumes.
Yes.
I'm a sucker for vintage clothing. And I especially love to find vintage clothing in stunningly good condition because I'm a collector.
Yeah.
And so when I found this with these colors and this pop of graphic, Big Al in his vacation jamboree costume, this 1980s graphic tee, does it get more quintessentially classic Disney than this?
No.
I don't know who did this art, by the way, but whoever did, perfectly captures.
You could just see a 1980s guest in their neon clothes sporting this. You
This
could
is
see it.
this and some very short shorts.
In pink.
Probably pink. Maybe you pull a green out of there and just rock it out. Tube socks. Some sort of proper tennis shoe, of which there's only 3 varieties available. That's exactly what I want to see in my mid-1980s park gear. And so you get amazing things like this because you get to play around with Big Al in the miner hat and doing the vacation jamboree thing. Not so much on the Christmas front, though, right? There wasn't a lot of Christmas merchandise.
Almost zero merchandise until Tokyo finally catches on many, many, many years later.
Right. After the first revitalization of the Country Bears, merchandise-wise at least in the 1980s with the overlays, we get into that lull period that we were talking about at the top of the show, where things kind of settle down and there's maybe a couple pieces of Country Bear attraction merchandise. There's always a Big Al plush. But really, things come back alive in bits and pieces and fits and starts when the nostalgia cycle kicks in. And then all of a sudden, when pin trading comes about, there's Country Bear pins. When vinylmation becomes a thing, Zoom Zooms.
I would say just before the 40th anniversary of Walt Disney World, you have that Big Al in the miner cap bobblehead pops up around 2008, 2009. But then, the merchandise of the times, the Tsum Tsums, the vinylmation, those sorts of collectibles.
Beanbag plush
Yeah.
right?
In the early
yeah,
2000s, late 90s, early 2000s.
Right there, and there was the full accompaniment of bears. I mean, there's of the Country Bear merchandise. There's a lot of plush. I mean, they're bears, so they lend themselves to the teddy bear model, but there's an awful lot of plush. You know this as well as I do. You who have, I'm pretty sure, every Country Bear plush in every variation.
Yeah.
But then, so Kevin and Jody get their hands on the bears, and we see some of those figures and the Big Al Big Fig, which came out with the Disneyland 50th merchandise in 2005.
Yeah, funny enough, he's from the Disneyland 50th, and then these fellows are from the Disney World 50th.
That's right. And obviously, there's stateside. There's a resurgence with musical Jamboree. We get some more merchandise. But I think the really exciting thing is what our friends in Japan have done with the bears.
Yes.
They've really taken this and run with it. And I mean, the number of really cool things it's practically innumerable. It's the
Well, it started with the plush badges, really. That being said, in the 80s, they had cool stuff too. So let's not forget, in the 80s, they were the first, and I think only to date, to sell plush heads of Buff, Melvin, and Max. They're the only, for some reason, no one's ever done this again.
And I know of 2 sets of those, right?
I can't imagine.
I don't know who has
might be the
those
owners
2
of
sets.
Those 2 sets.
But I know of 2 sets of those because like the perfect meta concept of plush Max Melvin Buff taxidermy. Plush taxidermy that you can hang on your wall as a decoration. Because that's what it was built for. It wasn't made to be like a plush that you held.
No, it has a hook.
Flat back and a hook, and it's meant to be a stuffed animal decoration. It's amazing. So it's the plush badges, it's the early 80s or mid 80s, early 90s plush, because I think we found photos of that stuff at the merchandise cart immediately adjacent to the Country Bear Theater. Those are the sort of things that are really important. But then, I mean, it's like curry sets, right? Because the Hungry Bear restaurant is right next to the Country Bear attraction. So there is a melding of themes, and sponsored by House Foods, which is among the many things that House Food makes. In addition to the Japanese version of Bugles, they make...
Which is also served at the Hungry Bear restaurant, by the way.
Tagari corn, I believe. Yeah. They make curry mixes, sort of like curry cubes and curry broth, because Japanese curry is close to the national dish. It's ramen, it's curry, there's a tug of war battle, but Hungry Bear curry is just one of those Country Bear fan rites of passage that you have to do when you visit Tokyo Disneyland, and it's only fitting that there would be a Country Bear themed curry set. Spoon, bowl, tray, you name it, they have it covered. And in addition to that, because they're the Japanese and they love seasonal merchandise, Vacation Jamboree and Christmas have both gotten not only just sort of the plush badge treatment, but postcards and original art from those shows, from those overlays that gets reproduced in postcard and stationery form and all those sort of good things.
But merchandise, as you indicated earlier, just a small part of the puzzle of Country Bear stuff. So let's start talking about things that aren't merchandise, things maybe you couldn't buy. And one of those things would be maybe, I don't know, like a real attraction poster.
Let's go take a look.
Let's go take a look. Josh, we have an attraction poster, something I'm sure we're going to talk about many times, but this one, tell us a little bit about this one in particular.
This is one of my favorite things. This is yours. This is plucked from the wall of the studio where it hangs in a place of pride. I also have one which is framed, and one of the best attraction posters and one of the best pieces of Country Bear history. This one was designed unusually as a dual park attraction poster. So it advertises both the Disneyland version of the attraction and the Walt Disney World version of the attraction at the bottom. Where it was, when it was installed in the park, they would silkscreen over that and they would say either Frontierland or Bear Country and drop a box on top of it. So that's a rarer variation of the poster. But the fun thing about this one is this was at a moment in time when WED was changing the process it was using, and it was starting to experiment with a lithographic printing process rather than the hand silkscreen posters that started in 1955. What that means is you get some different colors, you get a different level of detail on this poster, and more importantly, from a collector perspective, there are more of them out there. It's an obtainable poster. They come to market with some amount of regularity, and they're a fair bit more affordable than some of the sort of really high-end rare attraction posters. This one was designed by Jim Michelson, who did a whole series of posters in the early 70s, which were sort of frames. It was sort of a frame within a frame and a window into the attraction. There was a pirate version, there was a Jungle Cruise version of these window attraction posters that Jim did. And it features Mark Davis's art of the 5 bear rugs and Ursus H. Bear up at the top. And my favorite is the detail. It really is. It's the wood carving, or the faux wood carving, that's printed into the poster that picks up all of the different bears and puts them in the frame around the 5 bear rugs.
It is wonderful, and I always love when people come to see this here at the office. They always are like, from a distance, where are the other bears? But they are wonderfully woven into that frame.
It's a cool one, and you're right, we're going to be talking about attraction posters more, but let's set this aside, and let's, I think this is a good entree into what comes next, which is the bears as they existed in the parks and all of the sort of theme park memorabilia that may have been generated by the design and production and mounting of the attraction around the world.
Let's take a look. We now move from a poster to a more eclectic array of goods, I would say.
No, I think the attraction poster was a great entree into the other part of this hobby that we really love. And it's not just the merchandise. The merchandise is great, it tells a wonderful story, but what tells another story, a story of creativity and a story of sort of technical mastery and a story of merchandising magic still, is the stuff that kind of built it, the stuff that the Country Bear DNA is inside it. So I pulled just a small selection of things from, well, frankly, my Country Bear room at home, if I have to admit that.
I mean,
there's a Country Bear.
There's a Country Bear room at the front of the office. There's a Country Bear room in your home.
Well, do you have a Country Bear room?
Show us your Country Bear.
We'd like to know. So I think, let's start. Do we start at the very beginning?
We always start with Mark sketches. Let's just start with Mark sketches.
This is episode 2. We've never started with Mark sketches.
Oh, that's true. Let's start a new trend of segments where we start with Mark Davis sketches. I'm sure that'll be a reoccurring thing on this program.
As the father of most good things that emanated from wet Imagineering, we should start with the DNA of these attractions, and that is Mark's creative approach to whatever story he was looking to do and build out. This one, there's not really a linear storyline, so it's all about character development, and it's all about those weird, funny, crazy gags that made Walt laugh, that made everybody laugh to this day. It's bears playing instruments, and that's where Mark started. So these are some very, very early preparatory sketches. This is before we get to the point where there are characters, and there are even sort of costumes, and there's that sort of mishmash of country music and southern culture and bluegrass culture with the bears. It's just sort of bears playing instruments. So early ink on sort of really just sketch paper, and it's Mark walking through ideas about, well, what if the bears on the stage proscenium were sort of have angel wings like Pootie, and that ultimately that made it into the poster. Yeah, it made it into the poster, made it into the attraction. And then it's Mark just sort of like ideating on weird and wonderful things. Here's a very rough bear. This one's fantastic. This is a bear playing a cat as an instrument. That didn't make it into the show last time I checked, but there's always hope for the future. No good idea gets discarded by Walt Disney Imagineering. So hopefully the next iteration has the bear playing the cat.
What I love about these Mark sketches is it doesn't leave a whole lot to the imagination of someone that has to make this into a reality.
That's right.
Mark is showing you the movement, what the gag is. Like if you're taking this to the next step of the creative process to build animatronics or whatever the case may be, you have a good idea of what it needs to do.
Absolutely. And here's early sunbonnets, right? So we're already thinking about some sort of bear trio act. We're thinking about like the acts of the bears, and obviously there's going to be some humor that's drawn from the setting, some humor that's drawn from the instruments, some humor that's drawn from how the bears interact with one another and how they're replicating and emulating sort of vaudeville performances. And so you get some, like an early sketch of that, and then here right into those props, right? He's already thinking about not just the bears, but what are they playing? What are they surrounded by? Well, bears like honey. So beehives, there's something natural there. The sort of rural, rustic, Appalachian undertones that the show has visually. It's pot-bellied stoves and fly swatters and sort of things like that, because I guess you can sum up all of Appalachia with pot-bellied stove and fly swatters. And then how do you interact with those props? So here's a bear playing, the jug, and he's got 3 of them lined up. That doesn't make it into the show, but it's sort of a cute gag. He's already seen how characters and props interact to tell a story. So it's 3 different notes, and you can see the animation and you can see the gag all come alive for you. But that's really the starting point of the Country Bear Jamboree. It's the starting point of anything by way of sort of Disney memorabilia, Disney collecting, Disney history. It starts with a drawing. It starts with an idea and the manifestation of an idea through a drawing, even one as rough as this. And that's kind of what makes those special, I think.
Yeah, blue sky and concept art.
So from that, we move right along to designing the attraction, I think. And the way to do that, of course, is through model form. And one of my favorite pieces sits right down front here. This is a maquette, so a development model, a character development model, and that's of my favorite bear, Big Al, playing his guitar as he appeared in opening day. I don't know a lot about this one. This sort of came from, this was a while ago. I've had this for 30 odd years. I was really young when I got it. It was one of those first big purchases, and it was back in the early days of the internet, where I'd come into contact with someone who was a former Imagineer and a bit of a collector / accumulator, and she had what she described via email, no photos at that point in time. Digital photography didn't quite exist in its sort of widespread format, easy to use format.
Yeah.
And so this was all done by virtue of description. And she sort of said, well, I have this a statue of a bear from the Country Bears. Didn't identify the character, sent it to me in the mail to look at it. And then we could talk about the price. So I think I was 11, maybe 12 at the time when this was going on. And I think
normal things that
11 or 12-year-olds do, like getting in trouble on the internet. Yeah. I think Big Al was $300, and that was a lot of money. That was talk to your parents about.
Years old,
yeah, that was a lot of money. So that creature, that character, has been with me for a long time and has really inspired one of my loves, which is models. I love attraction models and character models and those sort of physical manifestations of characters in miniature form. So when you walk through these steps, right? We go from concept to development to what comes next. It's the attraction itself, right? And we have a couple things here that demonstrate the artifacts of the attraction. The first of which comes from Disneyland. It's the most obvious one. It's a silk screened and hand painted sign from the Country Bear Playhouse. So these were on either side of the entryway to the Country Bear Playhouse. You went into the middle and across. That's still the entrance to the Winnie the Pooh attraction.
Yes. The little bridge and
that's right.
The little hut over it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but here you see the placemaking that precedes going into the theater, right? Because it's not just bears and an animatronic performance in a theater. You're actually going into their playhouse. You're entering their world, and it's that's where the scratches on the floor of the lobby come from. That's where the bears and Ursus H. Bear in the marquee and the proscenium of the theater are. That's where the comedy and tragedy masks of the bears are. We're in the bears' space, and this sets that up perfectly. It's the sort of perfect bridge. And the thing I love about this is it very much speaks to the graphics of its time. It is 1970s Disney graphics. They're very simple, they're very clean, they're very colorful and readable. There's not a lot of character, there's not a lot of sort of heavy theming, I would call it. That comes about later, where the graphics are less clean, much more sort of graphically rich.
Yeah.
much more detailed.
I would say if you go to Tokyo Disneyland, where a lot of the park is still as it was in '83, you still see most attractions have signage that's very simply
Exactly like this. Yeah, that's totally right. And that this would have come out of the WED graphics department at the time when Rudy Lord was in charge of it, and art directed a lot of the signage that we see in the parks. And it is very clean for just that reason. Like, that was sort of Rudy's mantra, and that was his aesthetic. And the designers that he hired, a lot of which we've known, talked to, and have had the opportunity to learn from both how do you do graphic design perspective, but also how was it done 40, 50 years ago? How were these things fabricated? And then down front, you have one of these, I have one of these. I wish I had more of them. I'd like to have the whole show. But the Sunbonnet Sisters, they were an animatronic act up front, and still are, and they're supported by a slide presentation behind them. Now it's a digital projection, but once upon a time, it was projected the good old way. It was glass slides in a carousel that had to click through every performance, so 3 or 4 performances an hour, give or take, and would eventually wear out. They'd get broken, like they'd get overexposed to light. There would be sort of mechanical reasons and show quality reasons to change them out. So these kind of exist in the marketplace in various bits and pieces. They're not anywhere near one-offs, but they reproduce the Mark Davis art from every guy that turns me on, turns me down, and it shows the Sunbonnets going through that whole narrative story. And
but they do speak to a certain time in Disney parks, because there was a point at which it went digital.
That's right.
Or at least to video. And that's the end of these. So these are only from the first, over 10 years of the attraction?
I bet they lasted longer than you think.
You think so?
I bet they lasted I bet they crept up into the 90s,
Yeah.
would be my guess. Because the attraction was there, and it was probably pretty slow to change, and there was a comfort with what the light quality looked like and what the image quality looked like with the slides that they could capture. And remember, sort of early digital projection technology, early video projection technology, it just wasn't there. It was going to mess with stage lighting. It was going to sort of not be as clear, not be as predictable. I mean, the worst thing that could happen is like some sort of failed input where you end up with like a test pattern, or like you've unplugged your cable like thing, which, I mean, you've seen that. Yeah. I've seen that in theme parks when you're like, I think we were on Runaway Railway recently, and you were sitting behind Goofy, and it's supposed to be Goofy as the conductor, and then it's like the Windows screen.
Or my favorite ever, Space Mountain in the rocket on the ride looking into space, and it says, "Replace the lamp." That's one of my favorite malfunctions of all time.
That's a great one. You have this. I'd love for you to talk about this. This demonstrates a different angle. Yeah. It's a little bit merchandise. It's a little bit promotional. It's very 1970s, and it's rare as heck, isn't it?
Yeah. Was it sold or was it given away?
I think it was a promotional item.
It was a giveaway.
Yeah.
So when the Country Bears opened at Walt Disney World and Disneyland, it was a very different time. It was a time when there were different sodas you could have than those from one company. And today we know Coca-Cola, the official soda and soft drink of most Disney parks, except for Shanghai. And in Shanghai, you could get some Pepsi. Well, you could get Pepsi at Disney World and Disneyland. And in fact, Pepsi, Cola, and Frito-Lay, the original sponsor of the Country Bear Jamboree. And
That's right.
In fact, Henry even said it during the show. It was part of the attraction. So to promote Pepsi's involvement, they made a cooler, and it has all the Country Bears on it in, what, about 3 or 4 different colors?
Yeah, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like 4-color art.
Yeah, so four different colors all around there. Walt Disney World Country Bear Jamboree.
And it's fantastic art because it's very 1970s, and it's that very sort of clean silkscreen graphic art. It's taken from the Mark Davis art by inspiration, but it's certainly not a faithful reproduction of that. Mm-hmm. It's a little more graphic. It's a little more sort of flat and rendered and very cool. And you get everybody, right? It's Max Melvin and Buff. It's Big Al. It's all of the main characters. It's all of the minor characters. They're all over the place.
Sammy the Bonnets. Yeah.
You've got the 5-bear.
Baby Oscar even.
Yeah. You got the 5-bear rugs at the center, and of course you've got Pepsi Cola at the top.
Yes.
Very cool promotional item and made of vinyl. So what is that, 55 years old, give or take?
It's held up surprisingly. I've seen some of these. The couple of times I've seen them, they're usually not in this good of shape.
No, they don't last. They get brittle, they crack, they break.
And also, people weren't thinking so much about keeping things like this back then. People would have a couple trips to the beach and this thing was gone.
This was a usable promotional item. It wasn't even really a souvenir, right? It wasn't sort of, I brought this to remember my time at the Country Bear Jamboree at the Magic Kingdom. It was, that was available with like 2 6-packs of Pepsi in my grocery store, and I'm going to buy it and use it, and yeah.
No one thought, I'm going to put a cooler on a shelf. That doesn't happen until we come of age.
That's right. With our love of food containers in their many forms and the desire to display them as both fine art and functional.
Speaking of food containers and fine art.
Oh, good segue.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is one of my favorite things. And I love art. I love sort of Disney art because it demonstrates sort of the individual approach to character design and sort of the project-based approach, and it's a great way to sort of encapsulate things that are happening in a particular moment. This is that. So this is 80s. This is safely in the 1980s. And this is the art, and the reason it's Big Al, and he's beautifully rendered. It's one of my favorite versions of Big Al. Like, done in watercolor, it's bright, and it's clear, and it's clean. And it was done by a Disney art group artist, which was then, at that point in time, just to give you some fairly nerdy Deep Tracks history, the merchandise design artists were associated most closely with a division of WED, actually. So WED East, because there was a WED and then a WED East, which was based in Florida and was under Ralph Kent, who's a Disney legend, and really famous for sort of cultivating and mentoring a couple generations of Disney artists. But Jim Noble did this, and Jim Noble did all sorts of fantastic sort of character art and packaging art. There's a couple really famous paintings of Walt that Jim did. One that, well after its time, got repurposed as the Walt portrait that was used in 100 Years of Magic and all of that promotion. Jim had long since retired, but that was one of those enduring images that carried forward. He was just so good about sort of character and color, but the truth of what this reveals is that this was used as actual production art. It wasn't just to be pretty, it was to make something. And the reason Big Al is on the left and there's a bunch of random lines that look like wood to the right is that this was the wraparound label for Big Al brand peanuts, which came in 3 flavors. I think there was a dry roasted, spicy, and a honey roasted, so 3 different colors. And that's what would be on this blank banner underneath, the flavor of the Big Al peanuts that were, and like, why wouldn't you go to the Magic Kingdom, wander into the Frontierland Trading Post and say, I'm gonna bring my friends and family a jar of peanuts. But that's what these are from, and those jars still survive, they're out there. They're hard to find because why are you keeping peanut containers? But this, I think, is just a great testament to merchandising creativity in the 1980s, where it was, what are we going to make next? How about Big Al sells some peanuts for us? It's
lovely art because it almost looks like a photograph. Like, the shading and everything, it really looks like Big Al. Posed for the can.
He perfectly captured the likeness. I would buy those peanuts.
Same.
So that kind of rounds us out, I think. But I think we should start a tradition on this show. Are you up for this? Are you up for this journey?
Yes, I'm sure something's about to come out.
I think there's time for one big surprise.
All right.
Should we go to that?
Let's do it.
Let's do one more big surprise. Tom.
There's a surprise.
There's always a surprise. I think it's a tradition, or at least as of episode 2. It's a tradition.
It's gotta be a tradition.
Because there's things, and then there's things. Let me show you something.
Keep trying to get that line over. Coming in, okay.
These are some of the least displayable things in my Country Bear collection. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, which was the bear overlays, I'm going to let you guess. What do you think these are?
I don't have to guess. I know what these are. These are the costumes from the Country Bear Vacation Hoedown.
That's right. These are they're manufactured by the Disneyland Creative Costuming Team. It is Bunny, Bubbles, and Beulah. So the sunbonnets, they're beachwear, and
They're bearkinis.
that's right. And of course, if you combine Elvis and Lederhosen, what do you get?
This. For those, I think there's a little bit of explanation that has to be made here. So, a character formerly known as Liverlips McGraw.
Can we say that
Now,
anymore?
Romeo, we can say
we
this is
can-
a historical show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's okay in the context of we're teaching history. That character began with a slightly offensive name and look, I would say. And I think by the 80s they kind of knew that, and so someone decided, hey, you know what, he actually kind of looks like his lip thing, kind of looks like maybe what Elvis would do while he's performing. So they decided that in both the Christmas special and this show, that Liverlips would now represent an Elvis-type performer. And so in the Christmas show, he's just really Elvis. In the vacation show, he's Elvis rock climbing. For whatever reason.
Because of Lederhosen.
Yeah.
Like-
everyone's doing a summer activity, he's rock climbing.
So these are rare.
I would say
They're a little bit hard to find. They're not out there, right? A lot of the merchandise we can find, like the slides we can find. Sometimes there's signs, sometimes there's art. You don't see a lot of animatronic costumes. And you really don't see a lot of bear animatronic costumes. I've not seen a lot sort of cross the auction block ever. And so when I found these were quite an exciting find. And the fun fact about them is they were bought from Disney by way of property control. So property control is the means of asset disposal at Disneyland and at Walt Disney World. And a few years back, the Walt Disney Company was going through and getting rid of costumes from like old shows and things like that. And on a rack, sort of stuffed full of random things, were these 4 costumes with plastic garbage bags over the top, tied at the bottom, labels sort of tucked down and in, not really like very out of context, very nondescript, very obviously missed by whoever was in charge of disposing of them. Because they were cheap. Like $5 a piece cheap. And
so very attainable if you
were in
showed
the
up at property control on the right day.
if you were in the
What you were looking at.
if you were in the right place and the right time, and you could say, gosh, I've seen that oversized, heart-covered bathing suit before. Where could that possibly come from? And the answer is, it came from the Country Bear Jamboree Vacation Hoedown. And it, still with its like towel, with the sunglasses, with the whole 9 yards, like the complete bear overlay looks. And I mean, who knows how exactly you display bear-sized bathing suits or bear-sized Elvis mountain climber Lederhosen costumes. But I think what's important, Tom, here is that there are so many sources for these things, right? Things show up on eBay, things show up in auction houses, things show up from cast members and Imagineers estates, and sometimes things show up directly from Disney, where out of context and without sort of a broader understanding, they're on the verge of being lost to obscurity. It was just luck. It wasn't skill, it wasn't talent, it was walking into property control, being at Cast Connection at the right time, in the right place, and being lucky enough to sort of put 2 synaptic connections together and say, those are from Vacation Hoedown, and oh my God, I want them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the magic of this. There's still great finds out there. There's still great stories to be told from this stuff. And, can you think of anything cooler than owning costumes from the Sunbonnet Sisters? It's the closest thing to celebrity that I can think of.
I mean, when I think of that show, I think of that musical number, California Bears. And I mean, that's the bonnets in those costumes. I do also have an affinity for Elvis Liverlips, but that's a different thing.
I mean, how can you not? right? This is the fun of this hobby. This is the fun of looking back and looking forward at what Disney Parks has to do and remembering the legacy that comes from the objects. That's what Materially Disney is about. That's what you and I are about. That's what makes this fun. That's what makes it informative. And speaking of that, we have something coming up that is equally fun and informative in early October.
Our biggest ever gathering of the former Imagineers and creatives that have existed in Walt Disney Imagineering. It's called Way Back When. It's October 2nd and 3rd at Disney's Contemporary Resort. And in fact, one of the presentations is about this show. Mike West and some of the other folks involved in the Country Bear Vacation Hoedown and the Christmas special are going to talk about the daunting task of updating the Country Bears in the 1980s.
We have a ton of great programming, right? We're talking about sort of Disney's America. We're talking about early California Adventure. We're talking about Tokyo Disney Sea and its early iterations and then its executed iteration. We're talking about
Hall of Presidents, The American Adventure, Big Thunder Mountain with Tony Baxter. We'll talk about
right. Tony's there. Who else is joining us in addition to Tony?
So many. Tim Delaney. We have Bob Weiss, who's former president of Walt Disney Imagineering at one point. The list goes on over 20 people. We've never had over, this is a record.
And Joe Lancicero is joining us, is that right? Talking about Duffy, among other, Mystic Manor, Duffy.
What I think is the best Disney attraction on earth right now.
There's a lot of great stuff coming up October 2nd and 3rd at Disney's Contemporary Resort, Way Back Wed. Check it out.
Events.wdwnt.com. Sign up today. Please join us. It's going to be incredible. And you'll learn more about these guys.
Awesome. Well, I think it goes without saying we need to insert one more bear pun here. So thanks for bearing with us till the bear end. And
bear around to see us again.
From Tom and Josh at Materially Disney, we'll see you again soon.
Josh, we are already taking Materially Disney on the road.
That's what I heard.
Tampa Bay Comic-Con.
All the way down I-4.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Hey, that could be a long trip sometime. But September 4th, 5th, and 6th, we're going to be there. We have a table for WWNT on the show floor. But then on the 5th at 2 p.m., we're going to have Materially Disney's Fantiques Roadshow. What are we going to be doing?
Well, I think we're going to give a little presentation about what Materially Disney is and what the stuff legacy of Disney Parks is. But more importantly, we want you to bring your stuff to Tampa Bay Comic-Con. We want to see it. We want to talk to you about it. We want to tell you what it is. So if there's something there that you don't really know what it is, what it's worth, is it rare, is it valuable, we'd like to know and we'd like to help you. So our experts are going to be on site talking about the magic of Disney stuff on September 5th, 2 o'clock, right?
Absolutely. And use code WWNT if you want to save on your registration for Tampa Bay Comic-Con. And don't forget, we're going to be giving out exclusive magnets each day at the booth, too. But still, if you can't make it to Tampa Bay, we still want to see your stuff, and we want to know your stuff stories. So send that over to stuff@wdwnt.com.
That's right. Fill our inbox up with stuff.
Hi, my name is Elissa, and I'm here to share my favorite piece of Disney merchandise. It's these ears from 2007. I believe they're from, I think it was Year of a Million Dreams, or Year of a Million Dreams at that point in time. They used to light up. I don't think they do anymore. The batteries are probably really, really corroded, but I got these ears the very first time I ever came to Disney. It was my first time. It was my dad's first time. My mom had been back when she was in high school, but I was just captured by the magic of Disney from the moment that we got there. My whole family was. And these ears, they actually bought me in Epcot right before we watched Illuminations for the first time. And there is a picture of me somewhere in, the backlogs of family photos, sitting on my dad's shoulders with these ears and Tinkerbell face paint and my fingers in my ears because the fireworks were way too loud. Funny enough, now the fireworks are one of my favorite parts of the day of Disney, but that's besides the point. But yeah, they may not be worth much. They might be worth a lot since they're from Year of a Million Dreams. I'm not really sure. But they're very, very important to me because this is where my story started with Disney. So yeah.
Hi friends, it's your boy Chuck from Southern California. And I've got one question for you today. Have you ever been to a Disney park 41 days in a row? This guy has. He was chasing some cardboard. But it wasn't for the Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom or any of that cardboard over there. Nah, this was for the 40th anniversary of Disneyland, where they gave out a collector's card every day, 41 days in a row. Let me show you what we got. For the 40 years of adventure, Disneyland gave out a different card every day celebrating something big that happened in the park for each year it was opened. 40 cards, and on the 41st day, they culminated with the Indiana Jones card celebrating the opening of that iconic ride. Such a fun thing for our family to do. The first 2 weeks, we thought we were the luckiest kids in the world. The last 2 weeks, we just went in and out to get the card and go home. I wanted to share that with Materially Disney. Maybe next time I'll tell you about some other cardboard.